Welcome to the Office of Student Assessment's 2018-2019 All Staff Test Security and Integrity Training. Please note that although this training primarily highlights information for examiners and proctors, all school staff should review this training in order to be aware of important test security protocol related to testing, regardless of whether they will or will not come into contact with test materials. This slide provides a summary of the topics that will be covered during this training. These topics include roles and responsibilities of staff that are involved with assessments, key test security resources, and test security guidance before, during, and after testing. Examiners play a critical role with testing and have key responsibilities related to testing. While some of these responsibilities are shared on this slide, additional roles and responsibilities are outlined in detail throughout the Indiana Assessment Policies, Administration, and Security Manual. Please be sure to review this resource for more information. Personnel that are not certified, who do not hold an appropriate license, may only serve as proctors, not as test examiners. In no case may unlicensed personnel be allowed to supervise the test administration without a test examiner being present. Proctors may, however, assist the examiner before, during, and after the test administration. Proctors play a critical role with testing and have key responsibilities related to testing. While some of these responsibilities are shared on this slide, additional roles and responsibilities are outlined in detail throughout the Indiana Assessment Policies, Administration, and Security Manual. Please be sure to review this resource for more information. There are also other staff, such as superintendents, corporation test coordinators, and school test coordinators that play a critical role with testing and have key responsibilities related to testing. The responsibilities of other staff involved with testing are outlined in detail in the document posted on this slide titled 2018-2019 Assessment-Related Roles and Responsibilities, as well as throughout the Indiana Assessment Policies, Administration, and Security Manual. Please be sure to review these resources for more information. Finally, there is a new requirement this year that all school staff, including but not limited to superintendents, principals, STCs, examiners, proctors, teachers in non-tested grade levels, support staff, front office staff, custodians, and other non-instructional staff, regardless of whether or not they play a role in testing, must receive test security training, review test security related documents, and sign the Indiana Testing Security and Integrity Agreement on an annual basis. Although some of these staff members may not come into contact with testing materials, it is important that they receive test security training to ensure they are aware of procedures and requirements in the event they observe and need to report a violation or are asked to engage in activities that could be a violation. There are several key test security documents and resources. Documents and resources related to test security that are listed on this slide have been updated for the 2018-2019 school year. Please be sure to carefully review these important documents and to share this information with staff. There are also things to consider regarding appropriate student preparation before testing. For instance, it is important for staff to prepare students by providing standards-based instruction and using only test items that have been released by the IDOE. Release means the item has been posted on the IDOE website. It is important to know and understand acceptable and unacceptable teacher practices. For example, do practice appropriate test-taking strategies with students. Don't develop and use elaborate review materials. Elaborate review materials should never be used, especially just before testing begins. Instead, teachers need to be good consumers of practice items and incorporate practice throughout the school year, making sure the items used truly align to standards. Examples of elaborate or inappropriate review materials or practices include the following: a large packet of review items that takes a significant time away from daily classroom instruction, or that is used during test prep sessions or clubs outside of school hours just prior to testing. Reviewing items that mirror actual test items. Drilling students on items from a review booklet that accompanies the textbook or digital curriculum. Again, teachers need to be good consumers and use best practice with these materials. Check for items and resources that have alignment to standards. Appropriate use of resource materials that align might include a daily warm-up activity. Before testing, examiners must share communication with students regarding test security protocols. A few of these communication topics are listed below. For example, students should be informed it is important that they do not discuss, rephrase, or paraphrase test questions or materials in person, by phone, via email, texting or social media, or any other communication method with anyone, including but not limited to other students. Do not access cell phones, smartwatches, or any other unauthorized device during testing, and do not take pictures or snapshots of any test materials, practice, or operational. Please review Section 6 Part A1 in the Indiana Assessment Policies, Administration, and Security Manual for more details. Examiners administering assessments to students receiving accommodations must be familiar with each student's individual accommodations, receive training on accommodations prior to test administration, and review IDOE's Accessibility and Accommodations Guidance document. The inappropriate provision of test accommodations continues to be one of the most common reasons for test invalidations. As such, it is important to spend time becoming familiar with student accommodations, reviewing IDOE's Accessibility and Accommodations Guidance document, and completing training to ensure students receive the appropriate accommodations to which they are entitled. All test examiners must be very familiar with test administration directions in advance of testing sessions. Examiners must carefully review manuals prior to test administration. No advance access to or review of student test materials is permitted. If a concern arises regarding the functionality of a test item during testing, please contact your STC or CTC using the protocol in bold text that is outlined on this slide. Your STC and/or CTC will notify IDOE if warranted based on the concern. Do not email, text, photograph, or post a copy of the item, a paraphrased item, or answer choices, not even to the IDOE or a vendor. Several stakeholders in testing are required to monitor during testing. Examiners and proctors have critical responsibilities monitoring students during testing. As such, it is important that they give the test administration their full attention. It is not acceptable for test examiners and/or proctors to leave students unsupervised for any amount of time, to concentrate on other tasks or materials, or to otherwise ignore what is happening. This slide includes some, but not all, of the monitoring responsibilities for examiners and proctors. Please review the Indiana Assessment Policies, Administration, and Security Manual for more details. CTCs and STCs or their designees also have monitoring responsibilities during testing. CTCs and STCs must monitor examiners and proctors during testing to ensure staff are adhering to test administration and test security protocols with fidelity. This slide includes some, but not all, of the key things CTCs and STCs will monitor. Please review the Indiana Assessment Policies, Administration, and Security Manual for more details. The Office of Student Assessment conducts unannounced on-site monitoring visits during testing windows as well. The purpose of IDOE monitoring is to ensure fidelity of test administration and test security requirements. Schools are identified for monitoring based on test irregularities, test security concerns, failure of a CTC to complete required training by designated deadlines, Tier 2 response analysis schools, and a random sample derived from Indiana demographic data. Please be sure to review Section 2 of the Indiana Assessment Policies, Administration, and Security Manual, as well as the on-site monitoring checklist for more details. The same test administration, test accommodation, and test security procedures and protocols for tests administered during scheduled testing also apply to makeup testing. A few examples are: students may not be left unsupervised during makeup testing, and makeup test sessions must be administered by a licensed test examiner. STCs and school administrators must monitor makeup test administration to ensure test examiners and proctors are adhering to test administration, security, and accommodation protocols. There are a number of things staff may mistakenly or intentionally do during testing that are considered inappropriate actions. It is not appropriate to review test questions prior to, during, or after test administration, discuss, share, photograph, or post actual or paraphrased test items or content or student responses in a public forum, social media, text, or email, coach students by indicating in any way that an answer choice is correct or incorrect, should be reconsidered, or should be checked. Even if an examiner or proctor does not provide the correct answer to a student, but provides tips, simplifies test content, refers to lessons or examples from the classroom, or shares that an answer is incorrect, this is coaching and is not appropriate. It is also not appropriate to allow students to use any type of mechanical, technical, or paper device or aid unless the test directions allow such use or the device is documented as a necessary and allowable testing accommodation. Rephrase test items or answer students' factual questions about test content or vocabulary. Read any parts of the test to students except as indicated in the test directions or as documented in a student's plan. Or alter students' answers during or after testing. A test irregularity is any unexpected event that significantly disrupts the testing environment of one or more students. Staff must immediately report irregularities to the STC and CTC. STCs and CTCs must immediately report irregularities to IDOE via the submission of the Testing Irregularity Report in Appendix C. Common test irregularities to avoid from the prior school year include use of calculator on non-calculator sections, test ticket swaps, the incorrect test time being provided to students, students progressing to a new section without authorization, incorrect directions being read by examiners, and accommodations being given to students that were not eligible for such accommodations. All concerns regarding test security violations must be immediately reported to the STC and CTC. Immediately reported by CTCs and STCs to IDOE via the submission of the Test Security Concern Report Form in Appendix C. Waiting until after the testing window is closed to report test security violations is not appropriate. Failing to report a test security concern immediately to IDOE is in itself a test security violation. Finally, test security violations must be investigated by the CTC or designees. Based on the common test security violations from the prior school year, which are shared on this slide, it is important that staff do not review, discuss, text, post, photograph, or email actual or paraphrased test questions or content. Do not coach students by indicating in any way that an answer choice is incorrect or correct, should be reconsidered, or should be checked. Do not answer students' factual questions regarding test items or vocabulary. Do not say anything or write anything on the board that is not explicitly described in manuals. And do not allow students access to cell phones, smartwatches, or other unallowable devices during testing. Discussing test items before or during testing is not appropriate. Even after testing, test items are not to be discussed unless and until the items are released on the web by the IDOE. As such, it is important that staff members understand the following. Reviewing test questions with students after testing is complete is not acceptable until or unless the IDOE releases the items by posting them on the web. Discussing, texting, photographing, emailing, or posting actual or paraphrased test questions is not acceptable until or unless the IDOE releases the items by posting them on the web, and test questions available in the parent portal during rescore windows cannot be discussed, copied, emailed, posted, shared, etc. until or unless IDOE has released such questions on IDOE's website. It is essential for all examiners, proctors, and staff to be familiar with appropriate assessment protocols. If you have questions about any guidance or practices, please consult with your CTC or STC in advance to minimize potential invalidations. Thank you for reviewing this training.